So my fellow readers, Dark Symphony 777 playing some Tri-Peaks. I actually like this game over Solitaire. Ignore this! Let me close that down. And I'm with another fanfiction reading. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications. Leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story, as well as any future fanfiction you want me to review. I am getting started. I am just about to get started on reading Pip's Treasure Chest. In the meantime, I'm probably going to be reading the other stories in the Island series, kind of as kind of warming you up to the story because it's very erotic in nature. So let's get started. So the story we have is Call of the Dullahan. It's a Monster Musume fanfiction. Yes, it's about time we got another one, gentlemen. We got him. If you've been noticing the last couple of videos where I've been doing reviews, I've been wearing Monster Musume shirts. Mia, I think Saria, I believe I haven't shown the Ranchero one yet. I don't think so. The only one is I haven't gotten the fourth one yet because the fourth one kind of ran out of stock at the place I bought it from, and I'm waiting for the fourth one to come in the mail. So, yeah. So let's read the synopsis. No one can escape death for eternity, and no one knows that better than Lala. Now in the afterworld she resides in, she meets Kurisu once again, but this time she can lift her scythe as she always did, based on chapter 30. So this is a Lala story, okay? Lala is the Dullahan who kind of talks in this very grandiloquent manner, but she's just doing it to put on an act. She's actually pretty much a mystery, one, because she barely shows up in the story, and two, the story makes it a point that Dullahans are not really that well known, just like Slime, but then again, everyone fell in love with Sue, because Sue's best monster girl. Lala can get smacked by Sue for all I care. All of the monster girls can get smacked by Sue and get sent into the stratosphere. No one is better than Sue. No one is better than Slime Girl. Worship her. Yes, I love. And if I remember right, chapter 30. Excuse me, where'd that come from? Has a moment in it where Kurisu is in the sort of like limbo, and he runs into Lala, and Lala actually kind of explains why she's not really going after him like everyone else, saying that, well, technically, I'm immortal, and once you die, I'm gonna get you anyway, so, you just have the fun, and also kind of explaining that the only reason he's actually not dying is because of some ridiculous amount of willpower. Which I thought, okay, fine, but it also is a clever way to, to not really have Lala not be involved in the story at all. Right now, she's just mostly right now in the story, she's just being used as a gag with her head kind of going around the world. I believe the last chapter had her trying to eat pizza, and then her tongue burns and she's eating it with her head. It's really weird seeing Lala's head in Italy, and like all the people in the background are like, what? Huh? What? So based on the synopsis, I kind of have a feeling I know where this is going to go. Alright, let's go. All was calm in the world by the river, a world of infinite beauty, peaceful, quiet, and devoid of anyone to disturb its tranquility. Save for one, a girl clothed in a simple white dress. It was her world, that which most only see once before she passes them along to their final destination with the touch of the scythe she carried. Kurisu had been here many times. It seems that he was here almost every day, mainly because of all the other monster girls kind of inadvertently killing him. Yeah, he kind of... Then again, with Sue, you're not really going to get that. With Mero, you're not going to get that. With Ranchera, maybe not get that. Lala, she's not going to do that. Until you're dead, but, until then, you're just dealing with a girl with her head falling off. She's still not best monster girl, though. He felt the same awe at this world's tranquility. He was never afraid, never worried about what this world meant for him. For he knew it was not something to fear. The girl was not something to fear. This world and this girl were simply a force. A part of nature itself, messengers for a greater purpose. He knew that she would never touch him with that scythe, that which had touched so many countless souls before him. He had crossed this world many times before, and each time he had crossed back to the world his body resided in, to the world of the living. It was different this time. When he again stood by the lake he always arrived in, he immediately recognized the change. The girl was crying. She had never been crying before. He had not known she was capable of such an emotion. But here she was, letting tears fall, creating ripples in the normally still water. He smiled, a soft smile that radiated with all the warmth he felt. For the girl and for the others he had become close to. Why are you crying? There's nothing to be sad about. How? She asked him slowly, unable to look directly into his eyes. Was it Mia? Sue? Sue would never do that. She's best monster girl. Marrow, they're always like that, aren't they? He never understood how fragile you humans are. Okay, I have a question. Why isn't Saria there? Why? Why isn't Saria? Why isn't Saria in that conversation? Mia, I can understand. Marrow, I can kind of understand because, that's how she was raised, saying it has to be tragic. No! But why isn't that Saria there? Because, half the injuries he got in the manga and the anime were from Mia, and the other half were from Poppy and Saria. It was mostly those three who kept hurting him, mainly because they were the ones who didn't really know their own strength and abilities. Poppy was a dunce. Mia was Mia, and Saria just kept getting kind of flustered and didn't really know her own strengths. Didn't really know that, he's not a centaur, and she was trying, we haven't really gotten anything with Saria in a while. We mostly have been focused on Mia and Ranchera. I don't care, they're not Sue, they're irrelevant. Yeah. Aren't they never? Okay, she asked in an effort to lighten the heavy mood surrounding them. He simply shrugged. They love too hard, that's all. You don't say! They really aren't bad people. You should know that. He laughed sheepishly, holding a hand behind his head in a gesture of defeat. No point in hiding it, huh? We both know why I'm here. Can't really say if I want to be. But hey, I led a good life. It's kind of... Yeah, it's going where I kind of figured it was going. Yeah, that's kind of true. Fun fact, did you know, despite the fact this is technically a harem, only one girl actually mentioned the harem in the first place. Do you know who it is? It's Sue! Of course she is. Because it's Sue. We need more Sue-fix. Give me more Sue-fix! Or at least give me a Sue-fix. Just give me any Sue-fix. Come on. Just have a running story of Sue being put in everything and how everyone reacts to it. Come on. Do it now. Okay. They love too hard. It's pretty much part of the running gag in the manga was the fact they don't know their own strength. The only one who really knows their own strength are Lala and Sue, actually. And Ranchera. Meru is just more conditioned to act like that. She doesn't really know what's going on. That's how she was raised. She was raised to believe in the classical version of The Little Mermaid, so tragedy is everything. Because her mom was her mom. Just read the manga. If you read on that one, then rather kind of meh. And, Mia, Poppy, and Saria were more the ones who do all the injuries to him than anything else. Sue kind of learned quickly, she kind of learned how to control her strength. Marrow, that was just how she was taught, and hers was more psychological than anything else. Ranchera kind of already knew her strength. She just kind of gets into the whole bondage thing. And Lala is Lala. She's the only one. But then again, Lala, she only had one chapter about her. So, we don't know anything about her as of this now. She just, after that, aside from that one chapter, she just has cameos here and there. So we don't really know anything. I actually really want to find out more about Lala or the Dullahans in general. But, you know, that's just me. And and I constantly get off topic, but it's related to Musume. But that's, you know, regardless. His words were too much, and the girl put both hands to her face. The tears still flowed between her fingers, though she attempted to cover her eyes. She remained silent, though she had clearly heard his question. He stepped forward, walking to her, maintaining his smile. Don't cover your face. I don't like it when you hide yourself. You're always in the shadows. And here, just us. You can show me your feelings. You know that. The girl lowered her hands and looked up, locking his eyes with hers. Her face was stained dark with tears leading streaks leading from her eyes, and more were yet to come. I can't, she managed to say, just barely keeping her voice from cracking. He tilted his head. Can't what? He asked. You can tell me, he added, in the caring, understanding voice he spoke whenever he dealt with the many people who had become accustomed to living with. She stared at him for several seconds, but was unable to keep eye contact with him, unable to tolerate that maddeningly kind expression he always wore. She didn't deserve that look. She was just the matron of this world, the wielder of the scythe. She was nothing, powerless against this man. He had visited her here so many times before, and every time she'd let him slip away from her grasp. Her purpose was to touch those who had visited her with her scythe, and send them to the end of their journeys. But she found that whenever he came to her, the scythe became heavy, too heavy for her to lift the ground. Whenever he came to her, it remained in the dirt, slowly sinking into the muddy bank of the lake. Not this time, now. She found herself holding the scythe, light as feather, as it always was when someone visited her. Her world. Now, his power, the strength that had been too much for her to bear, had vanished. She knew before he arrived, she knew long ago, when they first met in this peaceful world. This would be their final meeting. She could lift the scythe. She stared at its blade, glinting black in sunlight, a light that burned her skin more than it usually did. She knew it was time to finally end this, to end the curse standing before her. But she found that she couldn't lift her head to face him. The burden she had been forced to carry for so long. She knew what must be done, but she could not speak. She could not tell him. She heard her name spoken in that voice she loved and hated, and she was forced to look up at him. He was still smiling. You told me that you will handle anything when the time came, so don't hesitate. You're only making things worse on yourself. Those words. Why did he have to say those words? Didn't he know what he was saying? His words didn't help her. They only made her feel worse. Why are you so kind, she thought, more tears welling up in her eyes. Don't you know what I have to do? Please, go back before I can no longer fight against it. He simply continued to stand there, smiling softly at her. He understood. She knew. She knew he was aware of what she was about to do. She was a Dullahan after all. She had only one purpose. She was just a demon of death, unable to fight against it even to save this one man. This man who had listened to her pour her heart out to him in this world so many times before. The man shook his head, never losing that annoying smile. You aren't a demon, he said, as if he could read her thoughts. That was impossible. Why was this man, this boring, completely average human, so talented at drawing out thoughts she didn't want to think? You aren't a demon, he repeated. You're an angel. You guide those you meet on your way, and you never once let them go astray. She would be angry at the smile plastered on his face if her vision wasn't blurred by the water collecting in her eyes. Look at you. I don't know much about you even after all this time, but I never heard of a demon who could cry. Now she could not stop the tears from flowing once again. You know what will happen. Won't you run, she said, trying to yell, but all she could do was let out her words in a choked whisper. Go back like you always do. This can't be the final time we meet. His smile never fell as he placed his hand onto hers, lightly pulling so that the tip of the curved blade met his chest. Just do it, Lala. Even I know when I'm through. I accepted it now. Don't put yourself through that pain needlessly. I'm only one of millions. She hesitated, but slowly nodded. She knew that she could not deny it any longer. She could only act on her directive and touch him with the scythe. To defy her purpose now would be to hurt him even more. And the thought of hurting him was a worse poison than losing him could ever be. His smile never fell as she flicked her wrist, and like always, she felt no resistance at the edge of the scythe. It simply passed through like nothing was there. The tool didn't care who it touched. It acted as if nothing had ever been there, as if she was alone here like always. It didn't care that her movement was slow. It didn't care that she was reluctant. It did its job loyally, with none of the emotion that exploded inside of her as she gave in to the man's request. There was no sound of blood splashing in the river. No sound at all. But she could hear the shattering in her chest as he vanished from her. She was left alone again. Her curse finally lifted. She knew she should be happy, that she could finally forget the burden that he had forced onto her. He was gone, sent to his final destination. It had finally happened, after so long spent in equal parts contentment and dread. She lowered the weapon, tears still flowing, though now the ripples they made in the water at her feet had shrunk, as if even the gravity of this world knew that she did not want to be reminded of the cause of the emotion. She couldn't hold the scythe anymore, and it broke free from her hand, collapsing to the riverbank with a wet thud, once more sinking into the ground, too heavy for her to lift. That man was a curse, and nothing more, she told herself over and over again. Her only purpose was to shepherd those who visited her away, and he had simply been too stubborn to listen. Now she was free from that burden. He was a curse and nothing more, and she was Dullahan and nothing more. That was actually beautiful. I'm actually crying from it. That was beautiful. You could actually, reading it, I actually feel Lala's hurt because she knows, because probably there's going to be a point in time where she has to make the choice, either let him go or, keep him. And I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point in the story, in the manga, but I want to, this is just so emotional. Everything is paced perfectly, everything is worded perfectly, the characters are on point, the plot is simple, but effective. There's nothing wrong with the story. This is, for a 1,500 word story, this is amazing. This is immaculate. This is incredible. 5 out of 5. If I had to rate it, 5 out of 5. It's just so emotional. And despite the fact Sue is my favorite girl, and she always will be, Lala's right there next to her. Come on. The moment I saw Lala in the manga, I fell in love with Lala. I really loved Lala's character in the manga. Granted, she's kind of out of character, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense in this story because she can't, because we know the whole loquacious talk, her over dramatic speech and manners and stuff like that. That's just an act that she puts up, and she's actually kind of the shell that in the afterlife, in limbo, that she's just this very this actually pretty normal compared to like everyone else. If we had to choose one, like which one would be the most to fit Kurisu, I would pick Lala. Because she would be the one who oddly enough would have the best chemistry with him, and would be the one I could easily see, going really pursuing a relationship with, unlike all of them, where he's like afraid, and even Sue, to a point, there's gonna come a day where Sue might accidentally kill him, or really hurt him. But that would make the heartbreak even more, because we don't know how old. We don't know anything about their lives. We don't know anything about their backstory. We don't really know anything about most of the characters' backstory. We know Sue. We know a little bit of Sue's backstory, just a tiny bit. We know, the most, in terms of characters, the most we know the most about in terms of a character is Ranchera, and that's because she had like
2 mini arcs dedicated to her. One with the scummy director, kind of talk about it, and then we kind of get the backstory of why she kind of is the way she is, and now we're kind of learning more about Mia's culture and stuff like that. So we don't. So and I guess we kind of had a backstory for Marrow, but I don't really see that as her backstory, more as just revealing the fact of something we already knew, that she was a princess. We kind of already knew she was a princess from the beginning. It made it so obvious. And before all you say, it was like, no, if you read the manga, it was so obvious she was a princess. It was so obvious she was royalty. They weren't even trying to hide it. They were just trying to make fun of the fact that she was making it so obvious. But I don't really count that as Marrow's backstory. Just them go to Marrow's place, find out she's a princess, and that's it. And then, oh, her mom's a dick. But other than that, I really love this story. I think this is probably one of the best short stories I've ever read. This is probably so far, this is probably the best Monster Musume fanfic. There's really only 3 I read, because most of them are just really cut and paste. I really only want to read. Let me go back. Let me just go to the link. There's only a couple. There's only 3 I read. There's the one I read by Nightbreaker, the Poppy's Flight one, Call of the Dullahan, and then where is that one other story? Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Right here. My Lesbian Life with Monster Girls. And I already know I'm going to be reviewing this story when that finishes, because this is pretty much the only really popular Monster Musume fanfiction. I believe there's only like one other story, and that's more the Dull Life. Yeah, there's 2 other stories that are there's like, here are the top 5 stories, and this is the only one I really read. Okay, I read Everyday Life for the Futa, but I don't really like it because it's just so trite. It's very much trite and boring. I don't like the fact it constantly goes through, not to mention this guy's kind of known for like doing these really heavy erotic stories. I kind of looked at his profile. Here's like his profile. I read a couple of his stories. It's all the same. Well, for the most part, all of his M-rated stories are more or less just kind of the same. Here's every like Futanari. So while I do like this story, it's not as good. It's just very trite. And then the Life with Monster Girls. This is one. This is the only reason people like this, because it's at least it's at least kind of self-aware. I heard about the story. It's pretty much self-aware of the fact it's self-insert. So I guess it's kind of making it's kind of good, but at the same time kind of making fun of self-inserts in a general. And then there's Lesbian Life Monster Girls. This is actually a pretty good story. I read about the first third of it. There's 154 chapters. I'm probably going to be going through this a lot. And then My Daily Life with Monster Girl Y is basically just a kind of sort of crossover with Monster Girl Quest. And finally, In Spite of a Nail, this is basically just a what-if scenario where like each story has like Kirio with like one of the Monster Girls. Arc 1 Zabina, Arc 2 Ranchera, and Sarah, and then Capitals the Centaur, not the Centaur, the Minotaur, well, I bet. But overall, I think Call of Dullahan was a very, very good, very, very good short story. It's a very good Monster Musume thing. I would, if I would recommend this, I would. I mean, this is amazing. I found nothing wrong with the story. Nothing that I could really hate about the story. And any story that can kind of make me cry because of how good it is. I only really cry if it's layered right, to invoke those emotions, and they invoke it just right. Then I'm gonna cry. I cried reading Better Off Alone. I cried all these stories, this one too, I think this is a great story, and I'm rambling. So that's my review on Call of the Dullahan. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.